When organizations realize they need to save time, the first instinct is to demand shorter training. This leads to the shrunken head fallacy, the misconception that you can create microlearning by arbitrarily slicing a 60-minute course into 5-minute segments. This approach strips away the necessary context. It retains the complex, interdependent outcomes of a long course, but leaves the learner with fragmented information and no connective tissue to actually master it. True microlearning is not defined by an arbitrary time limit. It is defined by its structural focus. A true microunit is an intentionally designed, standalone instructional unit. It provides a short engagement designed to elicit a single, specific performance outcome. It demands active, engaged participation from the learner, a mental calculation or a physical action, rather than passive reading. Downloading a style guide or pulling a template from an internet is a passive reference. Because it lacks a specific instructional prompt, a digital resource library is not microlearning. Microlearning succeeds entirely through structural intentionality, mapping a short activity directly to one specific behavioral or cognitive outcome. Microlearning is highly effective, but its utility is strictly bounded by established learning taxonomies. Instructional design operates across 3 primary domains: the cognitive domain for knowledge, the affective domain for attitudes, and the psychomotor domain for skills. By mapping these taxonomies, we can identify exactly where microlearning structurally succeeds and where it breaks down. Understanding these absolute boundaries prevents organizations from wasting capital by deploying microlearning for complex tasks it cannot achieve. We start with the cognitive domain, which structures how learners process knowledge based on Bloom's taxonomy. This chart shows the cognitive domain taxonomy, grading intellectual tasks from basic recall up to complex synthesis and creation. Microlearning thrives strictly at the foundational levels: remembering, understanding, and applying. Consider an annual compliance requirement like active shooter training, which relies on applying specific safety protocols. After a single day-long macro course, knowledge retention drops precipitously over the following 12 months. A microlearning campaign, like a monthly video prompt asking employees to identify how to barricade a door, forces active retrieval, pushing that retention curve back up to 100%. Looking back at the taxonomy, we hit a hard structural limit right after the applying stage. Microlearning cannot support analyzing, evaluating, or creating. You cannot use isolated 5-minute snippets to teach an employee to build deep systems expertise or to synthesize a complex business proposal. Cognitive microlearning is a powerful tool for declarative reinforcement, but fundamentally incapable of teaching high-level synthesis. Next is the affective domain, which maps how organizations shape morale, attitudes, and values. This table shows Krathwohl's taxonomy, categorizing how learners internalize and align with new values. Microlearning is highly effective at the initial stages of receiving and responding to values. Short, emotionally charged interventions leverage social cognitivism to successfully shift a learner's baseline awareness. Deploying a 30-second emotional testimonial from a senior leader can successfully prompt an employee to rethink their approach to organizational safety protocols. The boundary failure point occurs at the highest level of the taxonomy: championing. True championing requires complex social constructivism. It relies on mentorship, peer modeling, and prolonged cultural immersion. Short, isolated snippets lack the sustained psychological development needed to forge a true corporate champion. Microlearning excels at introducing values, but is insufficient for ingraining them into a core belief system. The final boundary is the psychomotor domain, mapping how we acquire physical and motor skills. This chart shows Dave's taxonomy, detailing the progression from basic physical mimicry to automated expertise. Microlearning thrives strictly at the bottom 2 levels: imitation and manipulation. Consider a field technician who needs to replace a malfunctioning machine part on site. A point-of-need performance support loop showing the exact physical motion perfectly fulfills the manipulation requirement, easily allowing the technician to mimic the complex action. The structural limit appears when we cross into precision, articulation, and naturalization. These upper levels demand highly nuanced, high-stakes physical sequencing. The specific muscle memory required to safely land a distressed aircraft in a river cannot be learned via a mobile app. Developing fluid, complex sequencing under extreme pressure requires the sustained, immersive macro environment of a flight simulator. Psychomotor microlearning is a targeted tool for physical mimicry. It does not develop complex motor expertise. Across all three domains, a clear pattern emerges. Microlearning is a precision instrument, not a holistic training replacement. It is built for declarative recall, conceptual introduction, and point-of-need physical mimicry. It structurally fails at high-level synthesis, value championing, and complex muscle memory. True instructional design requires integrating single-outcome microunits into a larger, multi-tiered architecture. Macro-level curriculums and meso-level courses build foundational mental models and deep expertise. Microlearning slots into the center of this architecture to maintain, prompt, and reinforce specific, measurable outcomes over time. It's time to stop treating microlearning as a buzzword expected to solve every organizational knowledge gap. By respecting its pedagogical boundaries, learning professionals can deploy microlearning exactly where it belongs, as a validated, outcome-driven tool within a comprehensive ecosystem.